Skye Perryman is joining us. She's the president and CEO of Democracy Forward. It's a terrific organization. I can't tell you how important they are. In fact, Skye, welcome, and first, congratulations on winning that fight for SNAP benefits in the Rhode Island case. You forced the Trump administration to continue a funding that feeds 42 million Americans, even though he still says he's looking for guidance. Bravo.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. And our team and our co-counsel I thought, did a great job this week with an incredible coalition. We hope it will give, millions, over 40 millions of people in this country, an ability to breathe a sigh of relief. And again, it does show the disingenuous nature of what's been going on. The court has been clear. There is no legal barrier that the president has to paying these SNAP benefits for people. This is an entitlement that was created by Congress. It is supposed to pay out even in a shutdown, and the courts found that it was completely unlawful what the administration has been doing.
Yeah, I mean, Trump and his cabinet of skunks claim they want to spend this money, but they have no legal ability to do so. We need more guidance. But the courts, they said not only do they have the authority, they have the obligation to spend it. So, instead of just being relieved, they should stop. They keep talking about we need more guidance. Maybe we'll appeal. I mean, and you're going to fight them anyway every minute to get people their food.
Yes, I mean, we are. And, first of all, if they appeal, which I just want to say it would expose how disingenuous they are, right? I mean, that would mean that they are fighting against 42 million people in this country getting basic food.
Yeah, and all the farmers who grow it.
Correct, including, just to be clear about who these people are, including children, veterans, senior citizens, and then, of course, there are business implications here. We are representing several businesses and small businesses and grocery stores in our case. So, first of all, if they choose to appeal, they would be admitting to the country that they are fighting against 42 million people in this country. So, that, we'll see what they do.
Right.
The other thing is we know that this administration always tries to come up with an excuse. And so our team, they're working right now as we're on this show. They are working to be prepared for sort of every contingency next week so that we can make sure that these benefits are paid, because the court has been very clear that they have to be.
Right. I mean, they're going to say we are appealing. They're going to say we're looking for more guidance. We don't understand how we can do this. But that's all lies. All lies. Anyway, how do you decide, Skye? I mean, there are so many travesties, Trumpian travesties to take on, and you have a limited budget, even, as good a fundraiser as you are. How do you decide which travesty to take on?
Well, look, I mean, the first thing we do is we want to make sure that we're helping the maximum amount of people. We want to make sure that where this administration is taking actions that will harm people's everyday lives, but also harm their rights, that they are taken to task and taken to court. And so that is our philosophy. And yes, this administration has done so much to harm people. I mean, there have been four times the amount of cases that have been filed against this administration than there was in 2017 by this point, because of the extreme nature of their harm. And so, we look at everything quite carefully, but I do want everyone that's listening to know, we want to make sure that anytime this administration violates someone's rights or harms someone, that there is a lawyer that is willing to take the case to court and that people can have their rights protected. And we have been able to do that. We have filed, hundreds of legal actions in federal courts and federal agencies, and we're just going to continue to do that. But we do try to look at, how many people are affected, as well as what types of rights are affected, right? Privacy of individuals, very important. Voting and the ability to participate in your elections and in civic engagement is incredibly important. Due process, right? We shouldn't be able to disappear people in this country. All of those types of things are the things we weigh.
Good. I guess, and the work is so much more important. Well, not just because the president is so much more dangerous, but law firms, big law firms, big law firms have, entered their deals with him, Skadden and among others. So that's got to impact your ability to get pro bono help from those firms. So that makes what you do even more important.
Well, it also, I think, showcases the sort of the model that we have at Democracy Forward. And for those that are listening, you can go to democracyforward.org and learn more. But our team is comprised of some of the best lawyers in the country, and we have been growing and adding to our ranks. And this right now, there have been nearly 500 federal cases filed against this administration with a incredible winning rate for the American people. And that is happening largely without the support of the elite private bar like we have seen at previous times. So the fact that you have the largest and most successful litigation effort in history against an executive branch happening at the same time that these larger firms have pulled back, I think is really a testament to the tenacity and dedication of our team at Democracy Forward, to the tenacity and dedication of the teams at so many other public interest organizations, and to the tenacity and commitment of lawyers who are in the private bar and who are using their resources in this time. But we are having to provide a lot more pro bono assistance to people in communities across the country because there just aren't as many law firms that are doing that work.
Yeah, it's terrible. Really terrible. I guess I want to ask you I want to talk about some of the specific cases that you've taken on. But before I do that, what I am finding right now in watching what's going on in court as it relates to ICE's and CPB's activities in my city in Chicago. What I see are two kinds of threats. One is just the threat of the military in our city. But the other one, and it worries me just as much, is that I see the government going to court and telling lies in court. And I see we have a hearing on the facts in Chicago, as they did in Portland, and the local trial judge basically says, look, here we've taken evidence, we've listened to witnesses, and what the government is saying is not credible. And then the Solicitor General of the United States, John Sauer, goes to the United States Supreme Court and hands in a document that restates the facts that have been determined by lower courts to be false. And I worry, Skye, and I got to ask you, because you're in the law business, what happens if our courts decide political truth is more important than established facts?
Well, let me first to just give voice to what you are highlighting here, which is this is an administration. We have seen nothing like it before in terms of the way in which they're operating in courtrooms across the country. And there has been some recent writing and studies and data looking at the fact that in a number of cases, judges have had to really question the government's credibility. They have found these misrepresentations. And so I just want to say that is not normal. It is not the kind of thing that we've ever seen at this level. And it is certainly part of the litigation work. The positive news on all of this is that the federal judges really are having none of it. And we have seen judges that were appointed by Republicans, judges that were appointed by Democrats, judges that were appointed by, President Trump himself, all raise these types of questions, which is something that I think Americans should really, appreciate, right? That the courts are sort of having none of this. There are several, cases and including in one that involves, the president's attempt to disappear people to El Salvador without process, where what the government lawyers represented in the courtroom have led to proceedings around contempt, right? And so you're seeing those things play out. You see those things play out in the courts. But this is a very, very fragile situation because of the administration's just complete disregard for the legal protections that are there for people and for the courts. And so it is definitely something that we and others are having to contend with every day in our cases. But what we want the American people to know is that the judges seem very wise to it, and that is good, and that the lawyers are really fighting here to ensure that we're holding the government accountable in court. We've been able to ensure compliance with court orders. We have been able to get information out of the government that it was trying to hide. All of those things because of the way that we are litigating these cases.
I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm so proud of the work of the lawyers who have taken the time to engage in this, and of the judicial system that still values, facts and evidence over, I guess, politically blessed truths. I worry about our Supreme Court in that case. I think there are some instances where they have set aside findings of fact, not to say they aren't true, but to say they don't matter. And I worry about that.
Yeah, I think the Supreme Court, is a concern for many Americans, actually. I mean, I think the concern around the Supreme Court, the confidence in the Supreme Court has been for the last few years at historic lows. And that's, to some degree for good reason, because we've seen this court more often than not be reversing the rights of people. We have seen this court on its shadow docket and unexplained decisions just this year enable the administration to engage in a range of activities that lower courts have said are unlawful. And the Supreme Court has, issued these shadow docket rulings without any explanation. The thing we want to make sure folks are paying attention to is that there are a number of cases and a number of court orders that are protecting people right now that have not gone up to the Supreme Court and that won't go up to the Supreme Court. And so, we want to make sure that we're clear about that. We also want to make sure, and this is where it gets, it's an unfortunate situation because the Supreme Court has, like I said, in these unexplained shadow docket decisions, enabled, harm against a lot of people, including in cases that we had litigated and won in the lower courts where the relief that we won for people has been paused. But the other thing we want to make sure folks are paying attention to is that in the vast majority of those types of cases, the Supreme Court has not said that what this president has done or what the administration has done is lawful. It is, in my opinion, inappropriately used, this emergency docket. But we're still fighting vigorously in the lower courts to build those cases on the full record. They will go back up to the Supreme Court, and if the Supreme Court doesn't take the cases on the merits, then the orders that we win below will stand, right? Yeah. And so I just want to, but yes, we all have, I think, such a concern about what we've seen, from the court in several of these cases.
I was, I guess, shocked and happily shocked that a bunch of district court judges spoke out and said, look, we're not against the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court is creating a muddle of law by these shadow docket cases where they are not being clear at all to us about what the law is, and that is their paramount job, and they're failing.
Yeah, I thought that was very, helpful in that. It definitely makes you not feel alone, right? For people that have these concerns. And I think it makes the individual judges not feel alone. The other thing I will say is, our lawyers at Democracy Forward have been involved in arguments where judges have said these things from the bench, right? Where judges have said, we're not getting sufficient guidance from the Supreme Court on this or that. And so, this is a daily vigilance, right? It takes a daily sort of discipline for all the lawyers, for our team at Democracy Forward, to, be in court and putting the government through its paces, right? Going, being ready for these quick appeals, but also bringing floods of litigation that aren't quickly appealed. And so all of that is part of this work, to push back on really things that are very harmful to the American people and harmful to our democracy.
Yeah. I mean, Skye, we've already talked about the work on food, on SNAP. Let's just talk about two other things, because I think they're important and fun. Fun's a weird word, but I think they are. One is this thing that most people don't know about, which I think happened when Clinton was president, the Public Serve Loan Forgiveness Program. And just tell people what it is and then what the Trump administration is doing and how you are fighting back.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is so important, and I'll just say, I'm going to talk about this particular program, but we have seen this administration be openly hostile and really seeking to harm individuals who, what they have made their decision to do is to dedicate themselves to public service. And so at Democracy Forward, of course, we're representing many civil servants, right? People that went into government service, career government service, in litigation where the administration has sort of indiscriminately terminated them. Right now, we have kept a number of civil servants from being terminated during the shutdown, which the president doesn't have any authority to do. So that's one element of this fight. And then you have folks that go to college, go to trade school, go to institutions of higher, to graduate school, take out loans to do that, as so many people do in this country because of the price of education. And we've had a bipartisan and long-standing support for a program that enables certain loan forgiveness over time if the professions that you go into and the jobs that you have, right, are in the public interest. You might be a public defender or a civil rights attorney or any number of other things. And the administration has, is coming for this program and is seeking to undermine the public service loan forgiveness program. There's been a lot of reporting recently about it. And so we are, and have said, we are going to be in court over this.
Yep. Good. I mean, it's also like everything else, politicizing it. And it's just what they're doing.
Right. I mean, this is something they try to do, exactly, picking and choosing things that the president perceives are not aligned with his particular agenda. We have won a number of cases, and these are cases that have been standing up that have not, gone up on appeal and been overturned or anything like that. But we've won a number of court orders against the administration's, sort of targeting politicization, retaliation against certain sectors. And so, we're going to try to do that here too.
Yeah. Well, it's like litigating against them for breathing, because it's what they do. But, okay. Yeah, good luck. It's important, really important. Wow. So let's talk about the White House itself. You're trying to figure out, did they ask anybody? I mean, there are in the government, let's do a thought experiment, because I'm worried. I think I know where this will go. You're exploring using Freedom of Information Act requests and everything else to figure out who, among the organizations that should be involved in decisions about the White House, what did they know? What did they review? How did they participate? Right? So there's the National Capital Planning Commission. I think we have a commission on the preservation of the White House itself. Congress certainly should have been involved. You're looking at all of these trying to figure out what happened, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, like, one thing we've had to do overall, and then I'll just get to the East Wing, which is really, the vast majority of Americans are so upset about that. But one thing we've had to do overall is, because this is an administration that, while they like to take to social media and sort of, post memes and go on diatribes, they're not actually leveling with, they're not actually transparent with the American people about how they're operating.
Nope.
And so we have had to file a number of public requests for information. And then when the government withholds information, go into court and sue to obtain, this information. And so, and that's been working, and it's been a way that we've been able to help the American people understand what's going on with their government. And so you find our team back at it again as the reporting, and then, of course, the actions that the president has taken around the demolition of the East Wing of the White House. I think one of the reasons that many Americans are so upset about this is that it seems to be a metaphor, right, for what this administration's doing to the country overall. And so we believe that the president has broken the law here, that federal agencies have broken the law. And so, but we are looking to learn more. And so we filed some Freedom of Information Act requests. If the government responds the way they have responded to many of them in this administration, will probably be in court in about 20 days, because they probably won't fully respond. We'll see about that. And then we're also, considering legal options. Like I said, we do not believe that that there was authority, that there is any authority to do what has happened here, and so I feel like you'll likely see us in court over that as well.
Excellent. I mean, if we had a Justice Department that actually upheld the law, they'd do some of this work, but you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about something that I don't know if you're doing, but I used to be a federal employee. I'm very aware of the Hatch Act. When I was there, everybody had a separate phone. They didn't make a call to a friend on a federal phone. The line was very clear. This administration hangs Trump banners from federal buildings, has government websites that are nakedly partisan, and I see in the horrid things that are going on in Chicago, camera crews paid for by the federal government to cut ads about Kristi Noem's work here. What can be done to enforce the Hatch Act and stop our government resources from becoming their propaganda tools?
Yeah, so, we and others have filed a number of these complaints, these sort of internal complaints, ethics complaints around Hatch Act compliance. In many instances, and so that's important, and of course the administration has tried to tried to eliminate so many of the officials who would normally engage in Hatch Act compliance and monitoring, like the inspector generals. But then the other piece is, in a lot of these instances, and we've challenged some of the things that the government was putting on, federal employees out of office emails. I mean, just things that were, that are politicized and not made up. So in a lot of instances, it's not just the Hatch Act that some of these actions violate, but it's also, a variety of either First Amendment or other protections. And so, you see us, investigating these things and then suing on them.
That's interesting. Taking a constitutional approach lets you go to court and not have the administration have to deal. That's good. That's so smart. Skye, what is it like? What is it like trying to build a stronger democracy through law when the American president is doing all he can to undermine the institutions and norms that democracy requires?
Well, it's a labor of love for our team at Democracy Forward and so many of our partners and all of the groups that we work with. But look, I mean, this is a very, very trying time, and it's a very scary time. I talk to a lot of people that are just really worried. Are we going to be okay? Is like the common question that I get from people. What is going to happen? Are we going to be okay? And the answer to that is, we're going to have to decide what happens next. And we're going to all have to commit at a individual level to being part of the work to resist and oppose these harms and to build for a brighter future together. And what does that look like? Well, at our team, it looks like going to court a lot. It looks like educating the public a lot and doing, a range of these things. But we've also launched initiatives, and I think you've talked about these before, and folks can find out about it on our website at democracyforward.org, initiatives called, Coffees for Change or Dinners for Democracy, initiatives to make sure that we're building community together, that we are refusing to let all of the hopelessness, all of the devastation isolate us from each other. Because I think that what we have seen in our work is that when communities come together and when we refuse to be isolated, extraordinary things can happen. And that's what happened in this Rhode Island case, by the way. The Council of Churches of Rhode Island, small businesses, workers, individual organizations that operate food pantries, the National Council of Nonprofits, they all came together and said, you are not going to take away people's food on our watch. And we were able to win that court order. So that's community building, I think, is just so key here.
So like you, I am staring into the abyss and I'm an optimist. And hearing the work that you do is one of the reasons why I'm an optimist. Seeing what's happened on the streets in my city in Chicago, where every day on the ground, people are coming together to resist this federal attack on our city, to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, to double down on the ideals that make America America. And Skye, I teach a course at one of the local universities to college-age kids who do not have any experience with the America and the American values that I grew up with, in part because Donald Trump has so dominated their whole lives. I think your work is about making America America again. And I think it's fabulous.
Well, I appreciate it. And we and my whole team, the whole team at Democracy Forward appreciates it, but all of our, also our community. And if anyone is inspired by this work, we would encourage you to follow our social media channels. You can find Democracy Forward on social media. You can find me on social media. We would encourage folks to go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. We do not spam people. We are fighting for the America we want to live in, right? Yeah. One where we are not spam. So
I've signed up, and I urge everybody to do it.
Yeah, don't worry. If you sign up, you're not going to get we're not going to ask you to rush $5 every day or anything like that. Yep. We want people to be able to build community and be informed, because this is a long-term fight, right? The only way out of this situation is through. That is what I say all the time. The only way out is through, and courage is the new currency. But we can have that courage and find that courage and build that courage if we do it together. And so, that's so much of the work that we're doing.
Well, one more. That's a great place to end, and yet I'm going to go on just a little longer. Forgive me. For everybody listening, this takes a couple different wings. For a long time, the progressive side of America outsourced all of its progress to the lawyers on the theory that the courts would take care of everybody's rights. And oops, we woke up and found out that didn't work with this crowd. So we need Skye and Democracy Forward and this work to happen, and we need to support it. But you cannot send them to battle alone. The other part is this older muscle that's led to so much progress in America, and that is mass organization.
Yes.
That is people together saying on the streets and to companies you don't like, hey, that's not the America we want. To demand that we have the rule of law in America so that she can get her work done for us. We need both wings now to be organized and to be effective.
I agree with that. And the other thing we need is people to just care about their neighbors. Like, if you just, in addition to mass organizing and doing this organizing work, which we are so inspired by the No Kings demonstrations, peaceful mass mobilizations of people happening in big ways and small ways, obviously the legal work, going to court. But then the other thing I would just say is just making a commitment, right? This is a hard time. People are facing a number of different things in their lives because of what this administration is doing, because of other, very radicalized forces that are trying to undermine our democracy. So just renewing a commitment that we are going to care about our neighbor, that we're going to go, take a little bit of time out of our day and make sure the folks around us and in our community are doing okay. If they're not, if you can't make it better, you can at least be in community with them. I think that is just going to be so, so important. And it feeds both that mobilizing work and the legal and kind of advocacy work that we are so honored to get to do.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your work. And I hope we can have this conversation again a few times so you can update us and on the progress.
Thank you so much. And thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
You bet. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye, Skye. Bye.